What's going on, Minties? The Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, and today I'm going to do something a little bit different. This is something that a few of you have asked me to do. Now, normally I do overviews of new books or books that are coming out, but this one has been out for a long time, but with the new solicitations, we know that we are getting a reprint of Wolverine Omnibus Volume 1. So I guess this is a Retroview. I'm not sure if anybody has that copyrighted or not, but that's what I'm doing. So please stay tuned. And welcome back, Minties. Now, before I get started, I'd like to say a quick word from our sponsor. This episode is sponsored by CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for brand new graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off the cover price. Cheap Graphic Novels prides itself on packaging your books so they arrive safely and in excellent condition, as well as prompt and helpful service. And check out their bargain bin for even greater deals up to 90% off cover price. And for you Minties, Cheap Graphic Novels is running a special promotion. If you're a first-time customer, let them know you were referred by Near Mint Condition at the checkout, and you'll receive a credit for free shipping on your next order. Now, this is only for U.S. customers. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discounts, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. So today, I'm not going to look at the binding because the new printing will have a new binding. As a matter of fact, that is not even the cover that's coming with the new printing. It will be the classic cover. Right there, the Frank Miller for the miniseries issue 1, which was also the variant for this. And that's usually what they go for when they do reprints. They only use one cover, and it's usually the classic cover. But I'm sure the spine will look the same with that Paul Smith artwork right there. And then the back will look identical to this, including the price, because we know for a fact that that's how much they're charging. So let's look at this. I assume this will look different, because Omnis now look different on the inside. They don't have this kind of fake leather look to them anymore. I like to do a comparison when it actually comes out. Now let's crack this open and see what the book looks like. There's the contents, and then the pages, and then the introduction to Weapon X, so that's how they kick it off with. By the way, I did have this in here too, because this collects issues 1 through 16 of the ongoing series, issues 1 through 10 of the Marvel Comic Presents line, and then Marvel Age number 4. And remember that this omnibus reprint is coming back out in April of 2020. I'm 100% sure that this is the exact same way that the reprint is going to be put together, because, I mean, it's one file that they're sending to the printer, so I don't see them rebuilding it with the cover. So what they did was put the Weapon X story in the first beginning, and it's this beautiful oversized Barry Windsor Smith artwork. There was a platinum edition that collected some of these stories too, but that was a little too much for me, and I don't ever see a volume 2 of that coming out. With the reprint of this, you know, if sales are good, I actually see a volume 2 of Wolverine coming out. This gorgeous Barry Windsor Smith Weapon X story. It's the origin of how Wolverine got his adamantium claws. If you've never read it, I will just leave it at that. But what they do is they collect the story first, and then all the covers from Marvel Comics Presents are in the back. If you don't know what Marvel Comics Presents is, it was a series in the 80s and 90s that was an anthology of different stories. So Wolverine would be like a fourth of the story, with the exception of this issue, 84, which Weapon X, Marvel Comics Presents 84, was nothing but Weapon X, and it was an oversized issue. And let's see here. Here's an introduction. They keep all the introductions from the hardcovers. Here's his first appearance in Marvel Comics, Incredible Hulk 180, his cameo, and then the big fight in 181, of course. And they include 182 to wrap up that storyline. So the contents of the book are Marvel Comics Presents 1 through 10, which sets up the storyline in Madripoor, which sets up his new ongoing series. But we'll talk about that here in a second. And then 72 through 84, which was the Weapon X project. Incredible Hulk 180 to 182 and 340. Marvel Treasury Edition 26. Wolverine 1 through 4, that was the original Frank Miller miniseries. These right here, which all led to Uncanny X-Men 172 and 173. Something happens at the end of the miniseries that leads into that storyline, drawn by Paul Smith. This wonderful artwork right here. Now, some of this you may think it's already double dipping into Uncanny X-Men Volume 3. That is true. Some of it is, but a lot of it isn't. Kitty Pryde and Wolverine 1 through 6. Captain America Annual number 8. Spider-Man vs. Wolverine. Marvel Age Annual number 4, and the Wolverine Ongoing Series issues 1 through 10. Punisher War Journal 6 through 7 to wrap it up. That's the Jim Lee Wolverine versus Punisher story. This is the Al Milgrom art that I talked about. A lot of people aren't fans of it, but at the time as a kid, I really dug it. It reminded me a little bit of Frank Miller, what I thought Frank Miller was going to go to. For a collection of just different stories throughout the years, I think they did a phenomenal job of putting this together. I'm not sure, the book came out, over 10 years ago, and it really didn't sell that well at first, but I think that was because a lot of people weren't into God. I love that. That is part of Ground Zero, but this is the classic fight with the Hulk art by Todd McFarlane. So you get oversized artwork by Frank Miller, oversized artwork by Todd McFarlane. You also get, of course, Barry Windsor Smith, and then Jim Lee, which I'll show off here in a few seconds. And these are the stories that set up from Marvel Comics Presents 1 through 10, the Madripoor era, or what is known as the Wolverine Ongoing Series. You get to find out why he is known as Patch, how he gets that ridiculous alias he used for a long time. Hey, but I dug it. Chris Claremont, he's reunited with some characters from the Marvel Universe, and just like Weapon X, they put all the covers towards the back, which I appreciate, so this story is not interrupted every 8 pages by a cover. Now, this kicks off the Wolverine Ongoing Series. Like I said, Madripoor, he's reunited with some characters from the Marvel Comics universe, and introducing us to a whole new cast of characters. And there's Joe Fixit. This right here is one of my favorite Wolverine issues of all time, and that is a flashback issue to when Wolverine was young. So we never got a lot of Wolverine when he was younger stories back then, or at least back here. Weapon X was a taste of some, and then this one right here. And you're led to believe somehow him and Sabretooth have always been a part of each other's lives. Each of the issues of the ongoing series had a back cover to it, like some artists did the back art to it, like Todd McFarlane, Jim Lee. Speaking of Jim Lee, here he is in this classic crossover event against the Punisher. This is, man, I love Jim Lee's art style back then. It was so awesome. This is before he went on to do X-Men. So this is probably this and Alpha Flight, the first time he drew Wolverine. Now we look through the back here, through the extras, just different covers of different hardcovers and collections. Let's see. This is Barry Windsor Smith. Oh, this is a flashback sequence of Wolverine 166. And all drawn by Barry Windsor Smith. Some more collections. This is the John Byrne collection. Or, I'm sorry, the John Byrne cover to the Wolverine and Incredible Hulk collection. Afterwards, you'll get this too. This is the cover that they use for the variant, which I have. And the recolors that they use for the hardcovers, the Marvel Premiere stuff. Uninked pages, inked pages. Oh, I love these. Sam Keith. So I'm hoping that with the sales of this Volume 1, when it comes back into print, that we will get a Volume 2. So one of the questions that you may have is, should I get the Wolverine Omnibus Volume 1? Is this a good starting off point for that series? Or should I just get the Epics? So, I mean, yeah, this is out of print right now. And I know it's coming back into print, but we just don't know when. But I like my artwork oversized. Wolverine is my favorite Marvel character, so I have to have the Omnis. This collection of stories, I think, gives a good representation of who he is. I mean, it's the beginning of the Weapon X saga, so you know how he got his adamantium into his body. It's a lot of the earlier solo Wolverine stories, including his miniseries, which lay ground in Japan. And then, kind of when he went solo for a long time, and was separated from the X-Men. And yeah, the X-Men do pop in and out, but I think it's more about him, and that's what made that series awesome. Along with art by the wonderful John Buscema, too. That's what kicked ass in this series. And that's why I really push for Omnis, because, you get oversized books. Now, one of the stories that's missing from here that you probably can tell is the origin Wolverine, Paul Jenkins and Andy Kubert's story. And I think the reason they did that was because it was probably mapped out to be released in a later collection, as we know from the Epics. Like, it wouldn't make much sense because most of that stuff is retcon anyway. Not to say that Weapon X wasn't, but it just happened at such an earlier time that they fit it into the story so much better. And it reads a lot better without Wolverine Origins. Like, the idea of having, and I'm not talking about the Daniel Way run, I'm talking about the 6-issue miniseries Wolverine Origin. The idea of later on finding out the truth of who Wolverine was is actually pretty cool. So, for new readers of the character that have never read anything about Wolverine, I absolutely think this is a great jumping on point. You get the origin of the Weapon X project. You get his first appearance. You get early appearances by him. You get to see him interact with his team of X-Men. And then you see him roll solo to find out what he's like when he's not with the X-Men. So, yes, absolutely. And that was the contents of the book. Let me know in the comments down below if you're going to pick up the reprint or if you're going to pass up on it because you already own it or the content doesn't interest you. Hell, I'd love to know if you own it and you're going to get the reprint just for the better binding. If you enjoy the contents of this channel and you haven't subscribed yet, please think about subscribing and hit that notifications button and the like button. You can also find our logo on Redbubble, where you can put them on t-shirts, hoodies, or stickers, or whatever you want. And if you enjoy the content of this channel and want to support it, please think about joining our Patreon. That information is all in the description of the video. Again, this was the Uncanny Omar, and remember, if it's classy and cool, it must be near myth.